Last week we looked at, we introduced contouring and we discussed the characteristics of contouring. We defined some terms. And who can remind us what we talked about? Collins, we defined the term contour. If you can remember, please remind us. So what did you say a contour is? Collins? Dan?
Well,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Yeah, how did we define a contour?
We said a contour
Yes.
is an outline
Yes.
or a boundary, usually which is curved.
Yes, yeah. Okay, specifically a map contour is an imaginary line joining points of equal elevation on a map. And we discuss some of the characteristics of contours. We say that contours should not intersect. We say that contours are denser where the slope is steeper, and some other characteristics. So I want us today to focus on the grid method of contouring. And okay, this will be our learning outcomes for the day. For you, by the end of this session, you should be able to define terms used in contouring, and also you should be able to describe the procedure for conducting direct contouring using the grid method. We'll do the procedure for this class, then after this class, we'll do the actual field work for the indirect contouring using the grid method. So, who can define for us the term contouring? It's one of the very important terms in this subtopic. Any attempt? We need the definition for contouring. We know what a contour is an imaginary line joining points of equal elevation on a map. So, how do you understand contouring? Nelson, can you try?
Can we say it's the process of plotting contours?
Yeah, that is a very, very good attempt. It's basically the process of, it includes the process of collecting data for contouring and the eventual plotting of the contours on a plan or on a map or on a piece of paper. And you can note this down if you are writing short notes that contouring is the process of establishing or plotting contours on a map or a plan. We also have something called contour interval. And contour interval, we say is the vertical distance between elevations represented by adjacent contours. And I believe all of you can see the image here. Can you see the image on this slide? Yeah, it is labeled index contour. You can also see a contour line, and you can also see the contour interval. The contour interval is the vertical distance between two points represented by contours on a map. If you can see the image, you'll note that there is a contour for 200, there is a contour for 300, and there is a contour for 100. Can anyone see the image? Ben, are we with us? Benson, is the image clear? Or is the text too small? Can you see it on your end? Collins?
Yes, I can see.
Oh, you can see, and okay, if you can see the image, you'll realize that the image, some of the contours are labeled. They have the elevations indicated for 300, 200, and 100. And when we speak of contour interval, we basically mean the gap between two adjoining contours. So, for example, the contour interval between the 200 and the 100 contour is 100. The contour interval between the 300 and the 100 meters contour is 200. All right? Are we together?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. You will get a better picture when you go to the field and practice some of these concepts. Okay, let's look at the grid method of indirect contouring. And okay, in the grid method of indirect contouring, we assume you are in a field and you have already done the reconnaissance and you have the area you want to conduct your survey on. The area to be surveyed is supposed to be divided into a number of squares, and we say these squares can vary from 5 millimeters to 30 meters. These squares you can measure using tape measure. We can also set up the squares using a level or a theodolite. We set up to 90-degree angles and we measure the distance manually using a tape. Or if you have a total station, we can do it much more quick automatically. And I think we'll work with the level when you go to the field and a tape. So after you do that, you've divided your piece of land and into portions of, let's say, 5 by 5 meter squares. The corners of the squares are pegged and the reduced levels of these points are determined with the level. So you're supposed to set the level at a very convenient location, at a location where you can pick out all the points, you can read everything. And at these corners, you place your staffs. Okay? Are we together?
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, you have your level and everything. So, the surveyor will take the readings and the staffman or the chairman will pin these staffs at the corners of each square. After all the levels have been taken for all the corners, we do some reducing. I think we covered all of that in reduction of level using rise and fall. You can use rise and fall to compute the level for the corner points. After that, the squares are plotted and the reduced levels of the corners are written on the plan. It could be a plan or okay, in our case, because most of you guys are students, we can do it on a graph paper. So, and from this diagram, there is a diagram here. Can you all see the diagram? Can we all see the diagram?
Yes.
Yes, from this diagram, you can
Yes.
see, okay, this is our imaginary piece of land. And as you can see, the contour lines have been interpolated between the corner points. If we look closely at, let's go with the square on the top right of your screen. Can you see the square on the top right of the screen? The one with the 720 meters contour. Can you all see the square?
Yes, we can see.
This one here where I'm pointing with the mouse. We can see the square.
Yes.
Okay, we'll use this one as an example. So what you do is after you've plotted your squares in a graph piece of paper and you've marked the elevations of the corner points for each of the squares, let's go with you can see 718.3 and there is also 727.3. What you do in order to interpolate, you can use trial and error if the contour you desire falls exactly between the two levels, corner levels. But alternatively, you can interpolate by subtracting 718.3 from 727.3. After you get the difference, you count the number of divisions between the two elevation points of the square corners. Then with that, you can you can locate the precise contour line that you want. After doing that, you mark the location of that contour. Then you go to this other side of the square. You make sure you cover all the edges of the square. You mark all the edges of the square, then you join. You join using a smooth curve. I know it can be a bit challenging grasping some of these arbitrary concepts, but we'll do more practice in the field. And for the time being, I want you to okay. You can do this as an assignment. You're supposed to interpolate contours using spot levels provided in the image below. You can see spot levels 50, 50, 30, 40. You're supposed to join. You can join 30 and 30. For spot levels 60 and 50, you can interpolate a contour between 60 and 50. And I want you to submit the assignment by the next session. I'll be sending an additional video for further reference before we go to the field, okay? Okay. Okay, so you work on the assignment, and but before you go, I'd like us to remind ourselves of what we've covered today. And we defined some terms. We defined the time contour interval, and we defined the term contouring. And we also briefly described the grid method of contouring. So who can define for us the term contouring? Who does remember what we said contouring is? Benson, can you remember? Nelson? Collins, are you there? Mr. Kuloba? Am I alone? Am I still sharing?
Yes, you're sharing the screen. You can see.
Yes.
See the content.
And we said contouring is the process of plotting contours on a plan or on a map. And we briefly touched on the grid method of contouring, and which is very different from the direct method of contouring. We'll be focusing on that sometime in the future. And under the grid method of contouring, you say you subdivide the area you want to contour into squares, a number of squares. Then using a dumpy level or any other level, or even a GPS, you take the levels of the corners of every square. After that, we visit the office. When you're back to the office, we interpolate the contours between the squares. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I want to wish you guys a good day, and make sure you sign the attendance in the LMS. Huh? I'll be downloading the attendees on my end, but make sure you sign the attendance on the LMS. You can take this book as a reference. Go to the library or the internet for further reading. You can refer to this book. Anyone with a question? Anyone with a question? Okay. Have a good day. That will be it for today.
Thank you.